My parents chose my brother over me again, so I'm not helping them anymore. When I was 17, I got accepted to this summer coding camp. Full scholarship, everything paid for. I just needed $300 for the program materials. My parents said no, too expensive. 2 weeks later, my brother Kyle got $1,500 for baseball equipment because he made varsity. He didn't even ask, they just bought it. When I was 19, I worked 2 jobs to pay for community college. Lived at home, paid rent, bought my own food. Kyle was at state school, full ride from mom and dad. $30,000 a year. When I asked why they couldn't help with even one class, Dad said I needed to learn responsibility. Kyle posted pictures from Cancun that spring break. Last year, I finally saved enough to buy this beat-up Corolla. Paid $4,000 cash. Thing ran like garbage, but it was mine. 3 months later, the transmission died. Needed $2,000 to fix it. I asked my parents for a loan. Just a loan. I'd pay them back in 6 months. Dad said no. A week later, Kyle's lease was up on his car. They co-signed for a brand new Mazda, $28,000. I stopped going to family dinners after that. Stopped calling. Stopped showing up for birthdays. Kyle got engaged 2 months ago. Big party at mom and dad's house. I didn't go. Mom called me crying. Said I was being selfish. Said family is everything. I hung up. Yesterday, Dad called. Didn't even say hello. Just started talking. Said they were in trouble. The business was failing. Their accountant messed up the taxes. They owed the IRS $60,000. Their savings were gone. They'd taken out a second mortgage and couldn't make payments. Bank was starting foreclosure. They needed help. He asked if I could loan them money. I've been working in tech for 3 years now, making decent money, have some saved up. He knew this somehow. Probably Mom, stalking my LinkedIn. I didn't say anything, just listened. Then he said Kyle couldn't help. Kyle and his fiancée were saving for the wedding. It was going to be expensive. They couldn't ask him to give up his special day. Dad's voice cracked when he said it. Said they knew they could count on me. Said I was the responsible one. I looked at my bank account on my phone while he talked. I had $43,000 saved. Enough to help. Maybe not all of it, but enough to make a difference. Dad was still talking. Saying they might lose the house. Saying they didn't know what to do. Saying Kyle suggested they call me because I was always so good with money. My finger hovered over the calculator app. Started doing the math. If I gave them $30,000, I'd still have enough for emergencies. Could rebuild it in a year or two. They're my parents. They raised me. Then Dad said something that made me stop. He said, "We probably should have been better to you. But you understand, right? Kyle needed more support. He wasn't as independent as you." I sat there, phone pressed against my ear, the kitchen clock ticking, my coffee getting cold. Dad said, "So, can you help us? We need an answer soon. The bank wants to know by Friday if we can make the payment." I opened my mouth to tell him no when someone grabbed the phone. Kyle's voice came through, not Dad's. "He's gone. Bathroom. Listen, you can't give them money." I froze. Kyle never called me. Never defended me. What? He was whispering fast. "The business isn't failing. Dad's been taking money. Lots of it. I found the bank statements. He's been..." Dad's voice boomed in the background. "Kyle, give me the phone. Now." Kyle's whisper turned desperate. "Don't come to the house. Don't..." Scuffling sounds. A door slamming. Then Dad was back, breathing hard. "Sorry about that." Kyle stressed about the wedding. "So what do you say? Can you help your family?" And I heard the lock click through the phone. The line went silent for 3 seconds, maybe 4. I could hear Dad's breathing, heavy and uneven. Could hear something else, too. Muffled sounds behind a door. Kyle's voice, but I couldn't make out the words. "Brennan?" Dad said my name like a question, like he wasn't sure I was still there. "You still with me, son?" Son. He called me son. Hadn't done that in years. The word felt hollow, like biting into a chocolate and finding nothing inside. "Yeah," I said. "I'm here." "Good, good." He cleared his throat. "So like I was saying, we just need enough to cover the next few months. Get through this rough patch. You know how it is. Family helps family." I stared at my apartment wall. The same wall I'd stared at for 3 years. Same crack in the corner. Same water stain near the ceiling that my landlord kept promising to fix. I'd moved into this place right after college because it was all I could afford. $800 a month for a studio with radiator heat that clanked all winter, and no air conditioning in summer. Kyle had moved into a 2-bedroom with his fiancée Tessa last year. Dad had given them the security deposit, a gift, Mom called it, for the happy couple. "Brennan, you there?" "What did Kyle mean?" I asked. "About the bank statements?" Dead silence on the other end. "Kyle's confused," Dad said finally. His voice had changed. Harder now. That edge I remembered from childhood. The one that used to make me go quiet. He doesn't understand business finances. Never has. Too busy playing baseball instead of learning practical skills. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd paid for that baseball. Every camp, every tournament, every piece of equipment. And now Dad was using it against him. He said, "You've been taking money," I pressed. "From the business." That's ridiculous. But I heard it, that tiny waver. I'm the owner. I don't take money from my own company. That's not how it works. Then what was he talking about? Look, Dad's voice dropped. Kyle found some documents he doesn't understand. He's panicking because of the wedding stress. Tessa's family has expectations, you know? They're not like us. They come from money. Kyle's worried about looking bad in front of them. I almost laughed. Looking bad in front of them. Yes, that's all this is. Now about the loan, I need to think about it, I said. Another silence, this one sharper. Think about it? Dad repeated. Brennan, we're talking about your mother and me losing our home. The house you grew up in. And you need to think about it? Yeah, I do. This is exactly what your mother was worried about. His voice turned cold. She said you'd abandoned this family. That you'd gotten too big for us ever since you got that tech job. I defended you. Told her you were just busy. That you'd come through when we needed you. I let him talk. Let the guilt trip wash over me like water. 3 years ago, it would have worked. Even last year, maybe. But something had shifted. Something Kyle had said. The business isn't failing. Dad's been taking money. I'll call you back, I said. Brennan, wait. I hung up. My phone started buzzing immediately. Dad calling back. I let it ring. Then it stopped. Started again. Mom this time. Her contact photo showed up on my screen. A picture from 5 years ago, before everything went wrong. Before I realized they'd never see me as equal to Kyle. I sent it to voicemail. 3 minutes later, a text from Mom. Please call your father. He's very upset. This family is in crisis, and we need you. I didn't respond. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and sat on my second-hand couch. The cushions had a permanent dip in the middle from 3 years of me sitting in the same spot. I opened a new browser window and started thinking. Kyle had tried to warn me about something. Something Dad didn't want me to know. And now Kyle was locked in a room somewhere in my parents' house, while Dad tried to get me to wire them money. I needed to talk to Kyle. Alone. His number was still in my phone. We hadn't spoken directly in over a year. The last real conversation we'd had was at Christmas 2 years ago, when he'd made a joke about my car and I'd left early without eating dessert. I texted him, "You okay?" No response. Not even the 3 dots showing he was typing. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. His recorded message played, the same one he'd had since college. "Hey, it's Kyle. Leave a message or don't. Whatever." I hung up without leaving one. My apartment felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in. I stood up and paced the narrow strip between my couch and my kitchen counter. 6 steps one way, 6 steps back. My downstairs neighbor was playing music again, bass thumping through the floor. I thought about what I knew, what I actually knew, not what I assumed. My parents owed $60,000 to the IRS. Maybe. Dad said that. But Kyle said the business wasn't failing. Said Dad had been taking money. Which meant what? Dad was lying about the debt? Or lying about where the money went? I needed more information. I grabbed my laptop again and started searching. My dad's business was a small contracting company. Had been running it since I was 10 years old. Remodeling kitchens, finishing basements. Small jobs mostly. Nothing that would make him rich, but steady work in a good housing market. The company had a basic website. Hadn't been updated in years. Stock photos of happy homeowners pointing at granite countertops. A phone number and email. Nothing useful. I searched for public records next. Court filings. Liens. Anything that might show me what was really going on. It took about 20 minutes, but I found it. A notice of federal tax lien, filed 3 months ago, against my father's business, for $94,000. Not $60,000, $94,000. My stomach dropped. Dad had lied about the amount, lowballed it by more than 30 grand. Why? Because he thought I wouldn't notice? Or because he wanted me to feel like my 43,000 could actually solve the problem? I kept digging. More liens. State taxes this time. Another 12,000, and something else. A civil judgment from 2 years ago. A contractor Dad had worked with was suing him for unpaid invoices. The judgment was for $8,000, marked as unsatisfied. My phone buzzed. Mom again. Your father says Kyle was exaggerating. Don't believe everything you hear. Please call us. I typed back, what happened to Kyle after the phone call? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Her response. He went to his room. He's fine. Just stressed about the wedding. I didn't believe her. I pulled up my email and started drafting a message to Kyle. Something he could see without Mom or Dad knowing. Then I remembered. Kyle still used his old college email for personal stuff. Said he didn't want work emails mixing with his real life. I'd made fun of him for it once. Now it might actually be useful. I sent a simple message. Kyle, saw your warning. What's going on? Dad's asking for money. Found some liens online. Call me when you can. Use your cell, not the house phone. I hit send and waited. Nothing happened for the next 2 hours. I heated up leftover pasta that tasted like cardboard. Watched part of a movie I couldn't focus on. Checked my email every 5 minutes. At 8:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Brennan? Kyle's voice hushed. Don't say anything. Just listen. Where are you? Gas station on Route 12. I told them I needed air. They don't know I have my phone. They took your phone? Dad grabbed it after the call. Said I was trying to sabotage them. Mom backed him up. I had to pretend to go along with it. He paused. I heard cars passing in the background. Listen, I don't have long. They're going to wonder where I am. Tell me what you found. Kyle exhaled. 3 weeks ago, I was at the house. Tessa wanted me to grab some old photos for our engagement board thing. I went to Dad's office in the basement to look for albums. Okay. The filing cabinet was open. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I just saw papers with my name on them. Thought it was old school stuff or something. But it wasn't. What was it? Bank statements. From an account I didn't know existed. Brennan, there's a trust. In my name. Has been since we were kids. I sat up straighter. A trust? Grandpa Morrison. Mom's dad. He set it up before he died. Split between both of us. You and me. My heart started beating faster. Both of us? That's what the papers said. 2 trusts. Same amount. Set up when we were born. To be accessed when we turned 25. I was 27. I'd turned 25 2 years ago. Nobody had told me about any trust. How much? I asked. Kyle's voice cracked. The statements I saw. The one in my name. It showed $320,000. The number hit me like a truck. $320,000. My grandfather had left me over $300,000, and nobody had told me. Brennan? You there? Yeah. My voice came out weird, high and thin. Keep talking. I tried to find the papers for your trust. Spent an hour going through that cabinet. There was nothing. Just mine. But the original document, the one from Grandpa's lawyer, it clearly said 2 trusts. Equal amounts. Both our names. Where's my money, Kyle? He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was barely a whisper. I think Dad took it. The words hung there. Dad took it. My father had stolen my inheritance. That's what Kyle was saying. While I was working 2 jobs in college. While I was paying rent to live in their house. While I was driving a broken-down Corolla I'd saved 4 years to buy. My father had been sitting on $300,000 that was supposed to be mine. Are you sure? I asked. I'm not sure of anything. But Brennan, think about it. The business has been declining for years. Dad kept talking about reinvesting, new equipment, hiring help. But where did that money come from? The contracts he was getting couldn't cover all that. I thought about the new truck Dad had bought 3 years ago, the kitchen renovation at the house, the vacation they'd taken to Florida last winter, Kyle's college tuition, his car, all those baseball camps and tournaments that added up over the years. $300,000 could cover a lot. Spread out over years, it could fund everything I'd watched them spend money on while telling me we couldn't afford to help with my community college books. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked. I tried. I came to your apartment last month. You weren't home. I left a note under your door. I remembered. A piece of paper that said, "Call me. Important." I'd thrown it away. Figured it was Kyle trying to guilt me about missing the engagement party. I thought you were mad about the party, I said. Forget the party, Brennan. You need to come here. Get those documents before Dad destroys them. You think he would? He locked me in a room and took my phone because I tried to warn you. What do you think? A car horn honked in the background. I have to go, Kyle said. They're probably looking for me. Come to the house tomorrow. Early. Before Dad's awake. I'll leave the basement window unlocked. Kyle, wait. I'm sorry. For everything. For the way they treated you. I should have said something years ago. I was just so wrapped up in being the favorite that I didn't want to see what it was costing you. The line went dead. I sat in my apartment, phone pressed against my ear even though there was nothing to hear anymore. The silence was heavy, thick, like fog. $320,000. My grandfather had loved me. I remembered that much. He'd died when I was 8. Cancer. Fast and brutal. 1 month he was teaching me to fish. The next he was gone. At the funeral he'd been laid out in a suit I'd never seen him wear. Didn't look like him at all. He'd left me money. Real money. Life-changing money. And my parents had taken it. I thought about all the times I'd struggled. The summer I'd eaten ramen for 2 months because I couldn't afford groceries. The winter my heat got shut off because I was behind on bills. The year I'd skipped my own birthday because I couldn't afford to celebrate. They could have helped. They had the money to help. My money. And they'd let me suffer. I didn't sleep that night. At 5 a.m., I was in my car, the Corolla with the new transmission I'd finally saved up to fix. Dawn hadn't broken yet. The streets were empty, just me and the occasional delivery truck. My parents lived 40 minutes outside the city. A nice neighborhood, big houses with big yards, the kind of place that looked like a catalog. When I was a kid, I thought everyone lived like this. Took me years to realize we were upper middle class. That Dad's business had done well enough to give us things most people couldn't afford. Or so I'd thought. Now I wondered how much of that comfort had been built on my inheritance. I parked 3 houses down. No lights on at my parents' place. Kyle's Mazda was in the driveway, next to Mom's SUV. Dad's truck was in the garage. I could see the outline through the window. The basement window was where Kyle said it would be. Around the back, hidden by a hedge. I'd used it as a teenager to sneak out. Never thought I'd be using it to sneak back in. It slid open easily. Kyle had kept his word. I dropped down into the darkness. The basement smelled the same as it always had. Mildew and old paint. Dad's workshop was down here. His office, too. A converted corner with a desk and a filing cabinet and a computer that was probably older than me. I used my phone's flashlight, kept it pointed at the floor. Didn't want light leaking through the basement door. The filing cabinet was right where Kyle said. Gray metal, 4 drawers. I started with the top. Financial documents. Years of them. Tax returns. Bank statements. Invoices. I photographed everything. Didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I wanted a record. Proof. Something Dad couldn't deny or destroy. Second drawer. More of the same, but also something else. A folder labeled Morrison Trust. I pulled it out. Inside were papers. Legal documents. The original trust agreement from my grandfather's estate, dated 23 years ago, just after I was born. I read it twice to make sure I understood. Samuel Morrison, my grandfather, had established 2 educational trusts. One for Kyle Raymond Palmer. One for Brennan James Palmer. Each trust was funded with an initial deposit of $100,000, with the remainder of his estate to be divided equally upon the sale of his property. The trustees were listed as my parents, my father's name, my mother's name. They had full control over the funds until we each turned 25. I flipped to the next page. Account statements. Kyle's trust had grown over the years. Investments. Interest. The balance showed $327,000 as of last year. My trust was different. There were statements from when I was young, the account growing slowly through my childhood, then a gap. No statements from when I was 14 until now. I kept digging. Found more papers buried at the back. Withdrawal notices. Dated 12 years ago. Large sums. 20,000 here, 50,000 there. All from my trust. All signed by my father. The money had been drained over years. Slowly at first, then faster. By the time I was 17, the summer I'd needed $300 for coding camp, my trust had been empty for 3 years. They'd stolen everything and then told me we couldn't afford $300. I sat on the cold basement floor, surrounded by evidence of my parents' betrayal. The papers in my hands felt like weapons, heavy and dangerous. Footsteps above me. I froze. The floor creaked, someone moving in the kitchen. Early riser, probably Mom. She'd always been up before dawn, drinking coffee and watching morning news. I stuffed the papers into my jacket, grabbed my phone, started toward the window. Brennan? I spun around. Kyle stood at the bottom of the basement stairs, backlit by a faint glow from the door above. He must have heard me. Did you find it? He whispered. I nodded, patted my jacket. Get out of here. I'll cover for you. Kyle, go, before they wake up. We'll talk later. I hesitated. This was the brother who'd made jokes at my expense for years, who'd accepted every gift our parents gave him without questioning why I got nothing, who'd let me become the family outcast while he lived the golden child life. But he was also the brother who'd tried to warn me, who'd called from a gas station at night, who'd unlocked a window to help me find the truth. Thank you, I said. He nodded, then turned and went back up the stairs, closing the door behind him. I climbed through the window, walked casually to my car. Didn't run. Running draws attention. I didn't look back until I was 3 blocks away. No one following, no lights snapping on at the house. I'd gotten away with it. Now I had to figure out what to do with what I'd found. The drive home felt longer than it should have. Every red light, an eternity. Every slow driver, a personal insult. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see Dad's truck barreling after me. Nothing. Just normal morning traffic starting to build. I got back to my apartment at 7:15. Spread the documents across my kitchen counter. Photographed everything again, this time with better lighting. Uploaded copies to my cloud drive. Emailed them to myself. Made sure I had backups of backups. Then I sat down and started reading. Really reading. The trust documents were dense, legal language that twisted around itself like snakes. but the important parts were clear enough. My grandfather had wanted his grandsons to have a head start in life. He'd set aside money for education, for first homes, for building futures. The trusts were supposed to be untouchable until we turned 25. After that, the full amount would be released to us directly, except my parents had been named as trustees, and somewhere in the fine print was a clause that allowed them to access funds early for educational expenses and emergencies related to the beneficiary's welfare. Dad had used that clause like a crowbar. I found records of withdrawals going back to when I was 6. Small amounts at first. $2,000 here for educational materials. $5,000 there for tutoring services. I'd never had a tutor. Never needed one. My grades were always fine. As I got older, the amounts increased. $15,000 for college preparation. That would have been around the time Kyle was looking at private schools for baseball. $23,000 for vehicle and transportation. The year Kyle turned 16 and got his first car. Dad hadn't even bothered to pretend the money was being spent on me. He'd just taken it. Funneled it into Kyle's life while telling me we couldn't afford to help with mine. The last withdrawal was for $47,000, dated 8 years ago. The note said, business investment. After that, my trust was empty. I'd been 17 years old, and my entire inheritance was gone. I thought about confronting them, driving back to the house and throwing these papers in Dad's face, demanding an explanation, an apology, the money he'd stolen. But I knew how that would go. Dad would deny everything. Mom would cry and say I was tearing the family apart. Kyle would be caught in the middle, probably forced to choose sides, and somehow I'd end up being the villain. I needed a different approach. I called in sick to work, first time in 2 years. My boss sounded surprised but didn't push. "Take care of yourself," she said. "We'll manage." Then I started researching. Hours of reading about trust law, beneficiary rights, statutes of limitations. The deeper I got, the angrier I became. What my father had done was almost certainly illegal. Breach of fiduciary duty, conversion of trust assets, possibly fraud, depending on how the courts viewed it. The statute of limitations for these kinds of claims varied by state, but I was likely still within the window. I could sue him, take him to court, force him to pay back every cent he'd stolen. The thought was satisfying. Dad in a courtroom, exposed as a thief. Mom beside him, unable to pretend everything was fine. Kyle watching it all fall apart. But lawsuits were expensive, slow, uncertain, and family court battles could drag on for years. I didn't have the resources to fight that kind of war. Not yet. I needed leverage, something that would make them settle without a fight. Around noon, my phone started blowing up again. "Dad, why haven't you called back? We need an answer about the money." "Mom, Brennan, please. Your father is very stressed. He didn't sleep last night." "Dad again. This is urgent. The bank deadline is in 3 days." I ignored all of them. At 2 p.m., Kyle texted from his personal email. "Did you make it out okay?" I responded, "Yeah, found what I needed. We should meet." His reply came fast. "Can't. They're watching me. Dad thinks I'm unstable, trying to put distance between us." Me, "What about Tessa? Can she help?" Kyle, "She doesn't know anything. I haven't told her." Me, "Maybe you should." Silence for 10 minutes. Then, "You're right. I'll talk to her tonight. Be careful, Brennan. Dad's desperate, that makes him dangerous." The word dangerous stuck with me. I'd never thought of my father as dangerous. Distant, sure. Disapproving, always. But dangerous? He was a contractor, built things for a living. The worst he'd ever done was ignore me. But desperation changed people. I'd seen it in his voice on the phone, the way he'd grabbed the phone from Kyle, the lock clicking through the speaker. What would he do if he found out I had evidence of what he'd done? I decided not to find out, not directly anyway. I called a lawyer. Not a family lawyer, an employment attorney I'd used once for a contract dispute at work. He wasn't the right specialty, but he knew people. Trust law, I explained. Misappropriation of funds. Breach of fiduciary duty. I need someone good. He gave me 3 names, all expensive, all experienced in exactly this kind of case. I made appointments with all of them for the following week. In the meantime, I gathered more evidence. Bank records from my own accounts, showing how little I'd had over the years. Old pay stubs from my college jobs. Receipts from textbooks I'd bought with money I'd earned. A paper trail proving I'd supported myself while my parents claimed they couldn't help. The contrast would be damning. Me scraping by on minimum wage while they sat on $350,000 that belonged to me. That evening, around 7 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole. Mom. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Her hair was pulled back, showing gray at the roots she usually covered. She was clutching her purse with both hands like it might run away. Part of me wanted to ignore her, let her knock until she gave up. But a bigger part needed to see her face when I asked the questions I'd been holding all day. I opened the door. "Brennan." She exhaled my name like she'd been holding her breath. "Thank God. Can I come in?" I stepped aside, didn't say anything. She walked in and looked around my apartment like she'd never seen it before. Maybe she hadn't. I couldn't remember the last time she'd visited. "It's small," she said. "It's what I can afford." She winced at that. "Good, she should. Your father is very upset," she started. "He thinks you're avoiding us, that you're punishing us for something we don't understand." "He doesn't understand?" "No. He's tried his best to be a good father. To both of you. If you felt like we favored Kyle, that was never our intention." I almost laughed. "Never your intention." "Brennan." "Mom, sit down." She looked startled by my tone. I gestured to the couch. She sat on the edge, perching like a bird ready to fly. I remained standing, arms crossed, looking down at her. "Tell me about Grandpa's trust," I said. Her face went white. I watched it happen, the color draining from her cheeks like water down a sink, her hands tightening on her purse, her mouth opening, closing, opening again. "What do you mean?" she managed. "The educational trust, the one he set up for me and Kyle when we were born. Tell me about it." How did you?" She stopped, collected herself. When she spoke again, her voice was steadier. "Who told you about that?" "Doesn't matter. I know it exists. I know it was supposed to have over $300,000. And I know someone drained it before I turned 18. Tears started forming in her eyes. The same tears that had worked on me for years. The guilt weapon she deployed whenever I pushed back against anything. This time, I felt nothing. "It was your father's decision," she whispered. "I tried to stop him. I did. But he said it was for the family, for the business. He was going to pay it back." "Pay it back?" "When the business improved, he had a plan. Investments. He was sure he could double the money and put it all back before you even knew. That was 15 years ago." She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "It didn't work out the way he hoped. And you just let it happen. I'm your mother." I tried. "You spent my inheritance on Kyle." "No." She looked up, fierce now, defensive. "We used it for the family. For everyone. The house repairs, the cars, the vacations you benefited too. You lived in that house. We kept you sheltered and fed. And then told me I needed to learn responsibility when I asked for help with college." She had no answer for that. "You told me there wasn't enough money," I continued. "You made me feel guilty for asking. You let Dad lecture me about the value of hard work, while you spent my grandfather's gift on Kyle's baseball camps and spring break trips and everything else he wanted. Kyle needed more support. He wasn't like you. He struggled in school. Sports were his thing. We were trying to help him succeed. By stealing from me." "It wasn't stealing." Her voice cracked. "It was family. Families share. We make sacrifices for each other." "I didn't make a sacrifice, Mom. I was robbed. By my own parents. Without my knowledge or consent." She started crying for real now. Big, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. The kind of crying that used to make me rush to comfort her. That used to make me apologize even when I'd done nothing wrong. I watched her cry and felt nothing but cold clarity. "I want my money back," I said. She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. "What?" $320,000 plus interest. That's what was taken from me. I want it returned. "We don't have it." She shook her head frantically. "The business, the debts, there's nothing left. That's why your father called you. We're about to lose everything. That's not my problem. Brennan, please. We're your parents. We made mistakes, yes, but we love you. We've always loved you. You loved me while stealing from me. You loved me while making me feel worthless for needing help. You loved me while giving Kyle everything and leaving me nothing." She reached for me. I stepped back. "Don't." "What do you want me to say?" She was pleading now. "That I'm sorry?" "I am. I'm so sorry. If I could go back." "You can't. And sorry doesn't give me back 15 years of struggling. Sorry doesn't pay my student loans or fix my car or give me the career I might have had if I'd gone to that coding camp when I was 17. That was just $300. That you said you couldn't afford, while sitting on $300,000 that belonged to me." She had nothing. No defense. No excuse. Just tears and silence. "Leave," I said. "Brennan, leave now, or I call the police and tell them you're trespassing." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe the son who'd always backed down, who'd always accepted less, who'd always kept the peace, maybe he was finally dead. She left without another word. I locked the door behind her and stood in my empty apartment, heart pounding, hands shaking. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'd confronted her with the truth and refused to back down. It felt terrible and wonderful at the same time. My phone buzzed. Text from Kyle. "Mom just called Tessa crying. Says you threw her out. Dad is furious. Don't answer if he calls. I texted back. Wasn't planning on it. Kyle, what's your plan? Me, lawyer first. Then we'll see. Kyle, be careful. I mean it. Dad's been drinking. He keeps saying things. Me, what things? Kyle, that you've always been ungrateful. That you'd be nothing without them. That you're trying to destroy this family. Me, maybe I am. Kyle, that's not funny. Me, it wasn't a joke. Silence from Kyle after that. I spent the rest of the evening organizing my documents, making a timeline of every withdrawal from my trust, every lie my parents had told me, every time they'd claimed they couldn't afford to help while spending my money. The pattern was damning, and I was going to use it. Tomorrow, I'd meet with the first lawyer. After that, I'd figure out my next move. But one thing was certain. My parents weren't getting a dime from me, and they were about to find out exactly what it felt like to lose everything. The first lawyer was a woman named Patricia Hendricks, sharp eyes behind thick glasses. Office on the 16th floor of a downtown building that probably cost more per month than my apartment did per year. I showed her everything, the trust documents, the withdrawal records, the timeline I'd built. She read through it all without speaking, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. When she finished, she set down her pen and looked at me. "You have a case," she said. "What kind of case?" "Breach of fiduciary duty, certainly. Your father was obligated to manage that trust in your best interest. Instead, he systematically looted it for his own benefit. That's textbook conversion. What can I get?" She leaned back. "Best case scenario? Full restitution of the trust balance plus interest plus damages. We're talking potentially $500,000 when all is said and done. $500,000. The number seemed unreal. And worst case? Your parents file for bankruptcy before we can collect. Trust assets are gone, there's nothing to recover. You spend years in litigation and end up with legal fees you can't afford. How likely is the worst case? Based on what you've shown me, your parents are already in financial distress. The liens, the tax debt, they're circling the drain. If we move quickly, we might be able to establish a claim before they file bankruptcy. But there's no guarantee." I nodded. "What would you recommend?" Patricia studied me for a moment. "Honestly, I'd recommend trying to settle outside of court first. Approach them with the evidence. Make it clear you're prepared to litigate if necessary, but offer them a way out that lets everyone save face." Save face. Your parents are prideful people. That's clear from what you've told me. If you back them into a corner, they'll fight. But if you give them an exit, a structured repayment plan, something that lets them pretend this was a misunderstanding rather than theft, they might take it. Why should I let them pretend? Because you want your money more than you want to humiliate them. She raised an eyebrow. Don't you? I thought about it. Did I? Part of me wanted exactly what she'd described. A structured settlement. My money recovered. The whole ugly business put behind me. But another part, a growing part, wanted something else entirely. I wanted them to know what they'd done. I wanted them to face it, to own it, to live with the consequences the way I'd had to live with the consequences of their choices for 15 years. "Let me think about it," I said. Patricia gave me her card. "Call me when you've decided, but don't wait too long. Every day that passes is a day they could be hiding assets or transferring money." I thanked her and left. Outside the building, the afternoon sun was bright and sharp. I stood on the sidewalk, people flowing around me, and tried to organize my thoughts. My phone rang. Unknown number again. "Hello? Brennan," Dad's voice, cold and hard. "We need to talk." "I don't think we do. Your mother came home in tears last night. Said you accused us of stealing, of ruining your life. She was hysterical for hours. Maybe she should have thought about that before spending my inheritance." Silence. Then, "You don't know what you're talking about." "I have the documents, Dad. The trust agreement, the withdrawal records, all of it." He didn't respond. I could hear his breathing, heavy and rough. "You went through my office," he finally said. "You broke into my house and went through my personal files. You broke into my trust and went through my personal finances. I think we're even. That money was for the family. It was for me. Grandpa left it for me. You had no right to touch it. I had every right. I was the trustee. I made decisions in the family's best interest. You bought Kyle cars while I ate ramen. Kyle needed support. You were always so independent, so capable. We knew you'd be fine on your own." The same excuse Mom had given. The same twisted logic. "You were so good at surviving without help that we decided to make sure you never got any." "I'm talking to lawyers," I said. Another silence. Longer this time. "You wouldn't sue your own parents." "Watch me. Brennan, listen to yourself. You're throwing away this family over money. Is that really what you want? You threw me away over money 15 years ago. I'm just finally catching up. I'm your father. You're a thief. And if you don't find a way to make this right, Everyone is going to know it. I hung up. My hands were shaking again. But underneath the shaking was something solid, something steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't backing down. Dad didn't call back. But an hour later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Brennan, this is Tessa. Kyle gave me your number. Can we meet? I think I can help." I stared at the message. Kyle's fiancée, the woman who came from money, the one whose family had expectations. What could she possibly want to help with? I texted back, "Where and when?" She responded with an address. "A coffee shop near the university, tomorrow at 10 a.m. I agreed to meet her. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept running through scenarios. What did Tessa know? What did she want? Was this a trap set by my parents? Or something else entirely? Kyle had said she didn't know anything, but maybe he'd told her since then. Maybe she'd started asking questions after Mom's hysterical phone call. At 9:45 the next morning, I walked into the coffee shop. Tessa was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She looked different than I remembered. Less polished. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of her usual careful styling. She saw me and stood up. Didn't smile. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Coffee?" "Sure." She ordered for both of us. Americano for her. Regular drip for me. We sat in awkward silence until the drinks arrived. "Kyle told me everything," she said finally. "About the trust. What your parents did. All of it." I nodded. And I'm sorry. That's horrific. The fact that they would steal from their own child." She shook her head. "I can't even imagine. It's been a long couple of days." "I bet." She took a sip of her coffee. "Listen, there's something else. Something Kyle doesn't know I'm going to tell you." "What?" She looked around the coffee shop like she was checking for spies. Then she leaned closer. "My family has money. A lot of money. And we have lawyers. Very good lawyers who specialize in exactly this kind of situation." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been watching your family for 2 years now, since Kyle and I started dating. I've seen how they treat you, how they favor him, how you're always the afterthought. And I think it's disgusting." Her voice sharpened. "Kyle is wonderful, but your parents? They're toxic. The way they've enabled his entitlement while punishing you for being capable? It's classic golden child scapegoat dynamics. I studied psychology in undergrad. I recognized the pattern. I'd never heard anyone describe my family that way before. Golden child, scapegoat, words that made me feel seen and exposed at the same time. "What are you offering?" I asked. "My family's lawyers. Pro bono. They'll take your case and pursue it aggressively. No charge to you." "Why would they do that?" Tessa smiled grimly. "Because I asked them to. And because my father is very interested in what happens when parents steal from their children, he had a similar situation with his own family. Cost him years to untangle it. He's made it his mission to help others avoid the same fate. That's generous. It's practical. He has resources. You have a case. Together we can make sure your parents face consequences." I studied her face, looking for the catch. There had to be one. People didn't just offer free legal help out of the goodness of their hearts. "What's in it for you?" I asked. She didn't flinch. "Honestly, leverage." "Against who?" "Hey, your parents. Kyle doesn't see it yet, but they're already trying to control our wedding. My family's money makes them nervous. They keep pushing for things, venue changes, guest list additions, all these little power plays. If they know I have this over them," she let the implication hang. "You want to use my case to keep them in line. I want your parents to understand that they can't bully their way through everything. That actions have consequences, that someone is finally holding them accountable." It was brutal logic, calculating, strategic, and I understood it completely. "What does Kyle think about this?" "Kyle is too close to see clearly. He loves his parents despite everything, keeps making excuses for them, but he also knows what they did to you was wrong. He's torn, and I don't want to push him too hard. That's why I'm coming to you directly. And if I take your offer, if your lawyers destroy my parents in court, what happens to Kyle?" Tessa's expression softened slightly. "Kyle will have to choose whose side he's on. I'm hoping he'll choose ours, but if he doesn't," she shrugged, "then I've learned something important about the man I was going to marry. Cold, but honest. I respected that. Let me think about it," I said. "Don't think too long. From what Kyle told me about the IRS debt and the liens, your parents are running out of time. They might try something desperate." I thought about Dad's voice on the phone. The anger barely contained beneath the surface, the lock clicking through the speaker. Desperate how? Moving money, hiding assets, maybe even trying to destroy evidence. She finished her coffee. "You got the documents out, right? The trust papers?" "Copies. The originals are still at the house. Then they might already be gone." The thought hadn't occurred to me. I'd been so focused on what I'd found that I hadn't considered what Dad might do once he realized I knew. "I need to go," I said. Tessa nodded. "Call me when you decide. Here's my cell." She scribbled a number on a napkin. "And Brennan? Whatever happens, I'm glad Kyle finally told you the truth. You deserved to know." I took the napkin and left. On the drive to my parents' house, I tried calling Kyle. No answer. Tried again. Voicemail. I texted, heading to the house. Dad might be destroying documents. Nothing. The house looked normal when I pulled up. Middle of the day, Dad's truck in the driveway, Mom's SUV gone, probably at the grocery store or wherever she went, to avoid difficult conversations. I parked and walked to the front door. Didn't bother being subtle this time. Rang the doorbell. Dad answered. He looked like he hadn't slept. Stubble on his chin, shirt untucked, eyes red and slightly unfocused. Brennan. He didn't seem surprised to see me. Come to apologize? "I need the original trust documents." His face hardened. "Those are family papers, private. They're evidence of your theft, and I'm not leaving without them." We stared at each other. Father and son. 2 decades of resentment between us. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "Going to war with your own family. You can't win. Maybe not. But I can make sure everyone knows who you really are." Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or rage. Hard to tell. "The documents are gone," he said. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean? Gone?" "Burned them this morning. Couldn't risk you stealing more of our private files. You destroyed evidence of your own crime. I destroyed papers that belong to me, in my house, that I have every right to do. There are copies. Digital copies can be faked. Everyone knows that. Good luck proving anything in court with photographs on your phone." He smiled. Actually smiled. Like he'd won. And maybe he had. Without the originals, my case was weaker. Not impossible. Patricia had said the withdrawal records from the bank would be harder to dismiss, but weaker. Easier to challenge. Easier to drag out in endless litigation. "You're pathetic," I said. The smile vanished. "I'm your father. You're a coward who stole from his own son and then destroyed the evidence when you got caught. I did what I had to do for this family. You did what you had to do for yourself. For Kyle. For everyone except me. Kyle needed more help. He wasn't as smart as you, as driven. We had to give him extra support or he would have fallen behind. So you stole my future to fund his present. It wasn't stealing. It was allocating resources where they were needed most. Resources that belong to ME. Nothing belongs to you until you earn it." His voice rose. "That's what I've been trying to teach you for 20 years. Everything you have should be earned. Through hard work. Through sacrifice. Not handed to you on a silver platter. Like you handed Kyle everything. Kyle needed it. You didn't. Can't you see the difference?" I stared at him. Really stared. And for the first time, I saw him clearly. He believed it. He actually believed that what he'd done was right. That stealing from me to give to Kyle was just good parenting. That making me struggle while Kyle coasted was building character. That I should be grateful for the neglect because it made me stronger. There was no reasoning with that. No argument that would change his mind. He'd built his entire worldview around justifying what he'd done, and nothing I said would crack that foundation. "I'm done," I said. "Done with what?" "With you, with Mom, with this family. You destroyed the documents? Fine. I'll get the bank records directly. I'll subpoena everything. I'll drag this through court for years if I have to. And when it's over, everyone will know exactly what kind of man you are." His face went red. "You wouldn't dare." "I already have. Lawyers on retainer. Cases being filed this week." It was almost true. Would be true soon enough. "Get out of my house!" His voice shook with barely controlled rage. "You're no son of mine. You made sure of that years ago." I turned and walked away. Back to my car. Back to my life. Behind me, I heard the door slam so hard the windows rattled. I didn't look back. The next 3 months were a blur. Tessa's father followed through on his offer. His legal team was everything she'd promised: aggressive, thorough, relentless. They obtained bank records, deposed witnesses, subpoenaed documents from Grandpa's original estate lawyer. Piece by piece, they built an airtight case. My father tried to fight, hired his own lawyer, some discount family attorney from the Yellow Pages. The guy was overmatched from day one. Every motion he filed was countered. Every delay tactic was anticipated. Every lie was documented and exposed. Mom tried to play peacemaker, called me crying, begging me to drop the case, said it was tearing the family apart, said Dad was drinking more than ever, said she was afraid of what might happen. I told her she should have thought about that before letting him steal my inheritance. Kyle stayed neutral for as long as he could, showed up to family dinners that I wasn't invited to, made excuses for both sides, tried to pretend everything would work out. Then the depositions happened. Kyle was called as a witness. Tessa's lawyers had subpoenaed him. He had to testify under oath about what he'd found in Dad's filing cabinet, about the phone call where he'd tried to warn me, about the lock clicking through the speaker. I wasn't there. Witnesses weren't allowed to watch other depositions, but Tessa told me about it afterward. Kyle had been nervous, sweating, kept looking at Dad like he was waiting for permission to speak. But when the questions started, he told the truth. All of it. The bank statements he'd found. The trust documents. The way Dad had grabbed his phone and locked him in a room. Everything. Dad tried to interrupt twice. The lawyer shut him down. By the end, Dad was pale and silent, staring at the table like a man watching his world collapse. The case settled 2 weeks later. My father agreed to pay full restitution of the trust balance, plus interest, $387,000 total. Payments would be structured over 5 years, with a lien placed on the house to guarantee compliance. In exchange, I agreed to drop all criminal referrals and keep the settlement confidential. It wasn't everything I wanted. Part of me still craved the public exposure, the humiliation, the chance to stand in front of a judge and tell the whole story. But Patricia, who'd stayed on as my personal attorney, talked me out of it. "You got your money," she said. "That's what matters. The rest is just ego." She was probably right. The first payment arrived on a Monday, $64,000, deposited directly into my account. I stared at the number for 10 minutes, waiting to feel something. I felt nothing, just emptiness. That night, I went out to dinner. A nice restaurant, the kind I'd never been able to afford, ordered a steak and a good bottle of wine, sat alone at a table for two, and watched the other diners laughing and talking. My phone buzzed. "Kyle, dinner was great. Mom and Dad didn't show up. First family event in months where I could actually relax. Thanks, I guess." I didn't respond. Wasn't sure what to say. The settlement changed everything and nothing. I had money now, real money, the kind that could buy security and options and freedom. But I also had a family that was fractured beyond repair. Mom and Dad stopped calling after the settlement was signed. I heard through Kyle that they'd downsized, sold the house to cover debts and moved into a condo. Dad's business closed for good. He was working part-time at a hardware store now, doing the same job his father had done. There was a certain poetry in that, a symmetry I couldn't quite appreciate. Kyle and Tessa got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, immediate family only. I was invited. So were my parents. None of us went. Instead, I sent a gift, a check for $20,000, made out to Kyle's name alone. The card said, "For your future. Spend it on yourself for once." Tessa texted me afterward. Kyle cried when he opened it. "He doesn't know how to thank you. Tell him he already did," I wrote back. On that phone call 3 months ago, the last time I saw my father was at Grandpa Morrison's grave. I went there on the anniversary of his death, like I did every year, brought flowers, sat on the grass, talked to a headstone about nothing in particular. Dad showed up about an hour later. Different flowers, same tradition. We looked at each other across the grave, 10 feet of grass and 2 decades of distance between us. "I'm not sorry," he said finally. "I did what I thought was right. I know. Kyle needed help. You were always fine on your own. I know." He waited, maybe expecting more of a response. When none came, he set his flowers down and walked away. I stayed until sunset, watched the shadows lengthen across Grandpa's name. "I got the money," I told the headstone. "All of it. Took a while, but I got it." The stone didn't respond. Of course it didn't. But I like to think Grandpa would have approved. He'd always believed in me, even when no one else did. I moved to a new city the following year, bought a condo with a view, started a new job at a company where nobody knew my history, built a life that had nothing to do with Kyle or my parents or the small town where I'd grown up feeling invisible. Kyle called sometimes. Updates on his life with Tessa. Stories about their new house, their dog, their plans for the future. He never mentioned Mom and Dad, and I never asked. We weren't close anymore. Maybe we never had been. But there was something between us now, a understanding that hadn't existed before. An acknowledgement of what he'd done by telling me the truth. He'd chosen a side, in the end. Maybe not publicly, maybe not loudly, but in that deposition room, under oath, he'd chosen me. That counted for something. As for my parents, they became people I used to know. Faces in old photographs, names that didn't belong in my present. Sometimes I wondered if they thought about me, if they understood what they'd lost, if they had any regrets. Mostly, I didn't care. I had my money. I had my freedom. I had a future that belonged entirely to me. And that was enough. That was more than enough. Update 1 to 6 months later. I didn't expect to be writing another update. Thought the story was over. Closed the book. Moved on. All that. But then, 3 weeks ago, Kyle called at 2 a.m. "That's never good," I answered, half asleep. Kyle, what's wrong? Dad had a heart attack. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, mind trying to catch up. Is he? He's alive. In the hospital. They did surgery. He's stable, but they don't know yet. Silence on the line. I could hear Kyle breathing, waiting for something. Are you there? He asked. Yeah, I'm here. Mom asked me to call you. Of course she did. Brennan, I'm not coming. He almost died. And? Kyle didn't answer. What could he say? We both knew the history. Knew how deep the wounds went. A heart attack didn't change what Dad had done. Didn't erase the years of theft and neglect and lies. Tessa thinks you should come, Kyle said finally. Tessa's entitled to her opinion. She says holding on to anger only hurts you in the end. She can tell Dad that when he wakes up. More silence. Then Kyle sighed. I'm not going to try to convince you. That's not why I called. Then why did you call? Because you're my brother, and our father might be dying, and I thought you should know. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to hang up. The part that had spent years building walls, protecting myself, making sure nothing could hurt me the way my family had hurt me. But another part, smaller, quieter, buried deep, felt something else. Not forgiveness, not concern, just a weight, a recognition that something was ending. How's Mom? I asked. Not good. She's been at the hospital for 3 days straight. Won't eat, won't sleep, just sits there holding his hand. I thought about my mother, the tears she'd deployed like weapons, the excuses she'd made for Dad, the way she'd stood by while he drained my inheritance and never said a word. But also, the woman who'd made blueberry pancakes on Sunday mornings, who'd sat up with me when I had the flu as a kid, who'd taught me to read before I started school. Complicated. Everything about family was complicated. Keep me posted, I said. That's it? Just keep you posted? What do you want from me, Kyle? I don't know. Something. Some sign that you still care about these people. I'll think about it. Brennan, that's all I can promise right now. I'll think about it. I hung up before he could push more. Spent the next week thinking about it. Couldn't focus at work. Couldn't sleep properly. Kept replaying conversations in my head. Dad's voice telling me Kyle needed more support. Mom's tears when I confronted her. The lock clicking through the phone. Then I'd remember other things. Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Mom cheering at my Little League games. The way they'd looked at me with pride when I graduated high school back before college, before the coding camp, before everything fell apart. There had been good times. I'd forgotten that in the aftermath of discovering the truth. But the good times were real too. Did that matter? Could good memories balance out betrayal? I didn't know. A week after Kyle's call, I got another one. Different number. Unknown. Hello? Brennan. Mom's voice. Rough and exhausted. He's asking for you. Who? Your father. He woke up yesterday. First thing he said was your name. I didn't respond. I know you're angry, she continued. I know you have every right to be. But he's different. The surgery, the near-death experience, it changed something. He wants to talk to you. Really talk. Not argue. Not defend himself. Just talk. I don't know if I can do that. Please. Her voice cracked. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Neither is he. We know we don't deserve it. But just give him a chance to say what he needs to say, before it's too late. I thought about Grandpa's grave, how I'd visited every year, how I'd always wished I could hear his voice one more time. My father was still alive, still breathing, still capable of speaking. Did I want to wait until that was no longer true? I'll think about it, I said. That's all I ask. I did think about it, for another 3 days. Talked to my therapist, yeah. I'd finally started seeing one after the settlement. Best decision I'd ever made. She didn't tell me what to do, just helped me understand my options. You can forgive someone without reconciling with them, she said. You can have a conversation without letting them back into your life, and you can refuse to engage if that's what feels right. What if I don't know what feels right? Then maybe you're not ready to decide. And that's okay too. I thought about not being ready, about waiting, about letting the opportunity pass and living with whatever came next. Then I thought about regret, about all the things I'd wished I could say to Grandpa after he died, about carrying unfinished business for the rest of my life. I called Kyle. I'll come, I said, but I have conditions. Name them. I talked to Dad alone. No mom hovering, no doctors interrupting, just him and me. Done. What else? If he starts making excuses or playing victim, I walk. No second chances. I'll make sure he understands. And Kyle? This isn't forgiveness. I want to be clear about that. I know. Tessa explained it to me. Visiting doesn't mean forgiving. It just means showing up. Yeah, something like that. I flew in the next morning. First time back in over a year. The city looked the same buildings, same streets, same sense of everything being smaller than I remembered. Kyle picked me up at the airport. We drove to the hospital in near silence. Not awkward silence, just empty. Two brothers who'd never learned how to talk to each other. "He's on the 4th floor," Kyle said as we parked. "Room 412. I'll be in the waiting area if you need me." I nodded. Didn't thank him. Wasn't sure if this visit was something to be thankful for. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. I walked past nurses' stations and waiting families and doors that led to rooms full of suffering. Found 412 at the end of a long hallway. The door was open. Dad was in bed, propped up by pillows. He looked small. That was the first thing I noticed. The man who'd loomed so large in my memories was shrunken now. Wires connected him to machines. An IV dripped into his arm. His skin had a grayish tint that made him look decades older than his 62 years. He saw me and something shifted in his eyes. Not quite hope, something more fragile. "Brennan." I stepped into the room, didn't sit, kept my distance. "Dad, you came. Kyle said you wanted to talk." He nodded slowly. Every movement seemed to cost him effort. "I did. I do." He paused, gathering himself. "I've been thinking. A lot. Lying here with nothing to do but think." I waited. I was wrong. 3 words. 3 simple words. But from my father's mouth, they felt monumental. "About a lot of things," he continued. "About the money. About the way I treated you. About everything." I still didn't speak. Wasn't going to make this easy for him. When I found out about the heart attack, when they were wheeling me into surgery, do you know what I thought about? No. You. Teaching you to ride a bike in the driveway. The way you kept falling but never cried. Just got back up every time. He swallowed hard. I thought about that summer camp, the coding one. How you asked for $300 and I said no. And then I thought about all the money I'd already taken from you. Your money. And I wondered what kind of person does that? What kind of father? His voice cracked. I watched his face, looking for the manipulation, the angle, the excuse that would let him off the hook. The truth is, I was jealous. Jealous of you. Of how easy everything came to you. School, computers, problem solving. You could do things I never could. Things I spent my whole life trying to be good enough to do. So you stole from me. So I convinced myself you didn't need help. That you'd be fine without it. That Kyle was the one who really needed support. He shook his head. I told myself that so many times I started to believe it. But it wasn't true. No, it wasn't. You needed help too. You just didn't fall apart when you didn't get it. That made it easier to pretend. I moved closer to the bed, stood where he could see me clearly. "Do you know what it was like?" I asked. "Working 2 jobs in college while Kyle posted vacation photos? Eating ramen for months while you bought him cars? Watching you give him everything while telling me I needed to learn responsibility? I can imagine." "No, you can't, because you never had to live it. You had a family that supported you, parents who paid for your education, a path laid out in front of you. You took all of that for granted and then denied it to me." Dad's eyes were wet now, tears running down the hollows of his cheeks. "You're right," he whispered. "I did all of those things, and I don't know how to make them right. You can't. That's the point. Some things can't be undone. Then what can I do?" I looked at my father, broken and small in a hospital bed, wires keeping him alive, tears on his face. Part of me wanted to walk away, to say that's your problem to figure out and leave him there. Let him die with the weight of what he'd done. But another part, the part that remembered bike rides and Little League games, understood something. He wasn't asking for absolution. He was asking for permission. Permission to stop pretending. To acknowledge the truth. To face what he'd done without the armor of denial. "Start with the truth," I said. "Tell people what happened. Not some sanitized version. The real story. What you took, why you took it, what it cost. Everyone will hate me. Some will. Others might understand. But at least it'll be honest. At least the lies will stop." He was quiet for a long moment. "And then what?" "Then you live with it. The way I had to live with it. The way Kyle has to live with knowing and staying silent for so long. The way Mom has to live with being complicit. I can do that. Can you?" "I don't know." He looked at me with something like respect. Maybe for the first time. "But I'll try." I stood there, looking at him, not sure what to say next. He reached out, his hand, trembling and weak, extended toward me. "I know I don't deserve it," he said. "I know I haven't earned it. But can you just for a moment?" I looked at his hand, at the man who'd hurt me more than anyone else in my life, at the father I'd loved and hated in equal measure. I took his hand. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just contact. A moment of connection between two people who'd been at war for too long. He held on like I was the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. "Thank you," he whispered, "for coming, for listening, for this. Don't make me regret it." "I won't. I promise." I didn't believe him. Not entirely, but I believed he meant it. In that moment, in that hospital room, he truly meant it. Whether he'd follow through was another question, one I couldn't answer yet. I let go of his hand. I need to go. Will you come back? I don't know. Maybe. That's more than I deserve. Yeah, it is. I walked to the door, paused, turned back. Dad? Yes? The payments. Keep making them. Every month. On time. That's how I'll know you mean what you said. He nodded. Every month. On time. I promise. I left without saying goodbye. Kyle was in the waiting room, pretending to read a magazine. He looked up when I approached. How'd it go? I don't know yet. Did he? He apologized. Actually apologized. Said he was jealous of me. Kyle's eyebrows rose. Dad said that? Surprised me too. So what now? I thought about it. About the visit. The conversation. The moment when Dad had reached for my hand. Now we wait. See if he follows through. And if he does? Then maybe we start over. Slowly. Carefully. With a lot of boundaries. And if he doesn't? Then nothing changes. I got my money. I got my answer. And I move on with my life. Kyle nodded. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but wasn't sure how. What? I prompted. I'm glad you came. Really. Whatever happens, I'm glad you gave him a chance. Don't get too excited. A chance isn't forgiveness. I know, but it's something. More than I expected, honestly. We walked out of the hospital together. The sun was bright. The air was warm. Life continued, indifferent to the drama of families and inheritance and betrayal. Brennan? Kyle called as I headed for my rental car. Yeah? Thanks. For everything. The truth about the trust, the settlement, the boundaries. All of it. Why are you thanking me? Because you could have handled it differently. Could have exposed them publicly. Destroyed their reputation. Made sure everyone knew what they did. Tessa's lawyers wanted me to. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Why not? I thought about it. About the choice I'd made. About what I'd wanted versus what I'd needed. Because revenge wouldn't have given me my life back. Just would have extended the fight. Kept me tied to them longer. I wanted to be free more than I wanted them to suffer. Kyle considered this. Is it working? Being free? I looked up at the sky. Clear blue. Endless. Getting there. Every day. A little more. I hope you make it. Me too. I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched Kyle standing in the parking lot, getting smaller and smaller. My brother, my family, the people who'd broken me and, in their own flawed way, helped put me back together. I didn't know what would happen next. Didn't know if Dad would keep his promises. Didn't know if we'd ever really repair what had been damaged. But for the first time in years, I was open to finding out. That was progress. That was growth. That was enough.